Prologue. Rimurus love drama. If Rimuru. I was sitting in my office doing piles of paperwork once again. But one thing was different from normal. My two wives Seal and Luminous Tempest were resting peacefully on my lap. Their sleeping faces showed me how simple the world can be. But the road to making the two of them my wives was damn hard. A slight giggle escaped my mouth as I remembered it. The Great Temna War was just 2 years ago. It was another one of those boring days as I dutifully went about my work. I was just letting a few unimportant thoughts fly through my head when suddenly there was a knock at the door. Lord Rimuru, a demon king awaits your arrival at the front gates of Tempest. The voice of my samurai general Benimaru told me. Enter Benimaru. He came into my office with his firm gait and bowed to me. You know you don't have to bow, right? You know that everyone in Tempest bows to them. To show respect to you. Never mind, stand up. He immediately listened to my command and stood up. So which of the demon kings wants to see me? Luminous Valentine, you can imagine why she wants to see you there? Come Benimaru, you accompany me there. Understood Lord Rimuru. We walked through the felt streets of Tempest. I could hardly think of my success in creating a peaceful world over the last year. That just made me quite proud. I hate my human side for that because humans always think bigger and don't stop to enjoy their success for a moment. Who do you think has already been ruined by thinking? Without noticing it directly, we have already arrived at the entrance gates of Tempest. Hey Luminous, why are you here? She didn't react immediately but marveled at the streets of Tempest for a moment. I was bored and because you are the only demon king with whom one can communicate normally I decided to visit you. Well, a cup of tea with Luminous can't hurt. On the one hand, it takes my mind off things, and on the other hand, I enjoyed the time with her. Once she invited me to her night garden. After all, we chatted with each other until late at night. But I can't remember what happened between the end of the conversation and the next morning. Benimaru, you can go, thank you for your company. You're welcome Lord Rimuru. He stepped down without further words. After his disappearance, I turned my attention to the demon queen. Come with me, I would like to show you something. Oh, what do you want to show me? Let me surprise you. I replied with a broad grin. We walked through the streets while Luminous looked at the individual buildings more closely. Do you like it here? Yes, now in peace I can enjoy your city more. She said with a real smile on her face. This sight warmed my heart. But at the same time, my insides ached with the thought of how I would feel if someone destroyed my city. I was supposed to take her to Valdora someday. To punish that damn dragon for it. I'm sorry Luminous for what you had to endure at the hands of Valdora. I didn't realize I was saying this inner monologue out loud. Thank you for your sympathy, but if it wasn't for that damn lizard I wouldn't have met Chloe and Hynate, and I wouldn't have met you. When she said my name she blushed slightly, or was it my imagination? Family that he has been wanting. My first ever fanfiction story. No, she is red in the face, master. Confirmed Seal. Pav Luminous. Now the memories are coming back. Of what happened in the night garden back then. We were talking deep into the night. When Rimuru suddenly fell asleep. Because my subordinates were already asleep, I decided to put Rimuru in my bed. No sooner said than done, I lay down on his chest. But before that, a person appeared in the room who looked exactly like Rimuru, except that he had red eyes instead of golden ones. Who are you? I asked, confused. She answered with a grin, I am Manas. Sealed, the first wife of Rimuru Tempest. My eyes widened briefly and then an unfounded sadness set in. Don't worry, I only call myself that. We're not married. But your reaction was sweet. I looked away, flushed. Fufufu, remember, if you want to be his wife I am the first. After that comment, there was no keeping me apart from a tomato. Seal seemed to be magnificently amused by my reaction. But the thought of being his wife brought a happy smile to my face. One more question, how can he suddenly fall asleep? He wouldn't need sleep. Fufufu, I activated his sleep skill. Because I was interested in what you were doing with him. It was more than obvious that you were in love with Rimuru. Was it that obvious? Well, the blush on my face says it all. I'll leave you two alone now, Fufufu. Seal disappeared, leaving black mist behind for a moment. Then I lay down in Rimuru's arms and fell asleep happily. Morning, and how was the night? I asked a broadly grinning Seal. You were watching everything anyway, weren't you? Fufufu, of course I couldn't miss the fun. Come to Tempest soon to confess your love to him. For now, I'll take Rimuru back to Tempest. So I spread my wings and quickly flew to Tempest and took Rimuru to his office. Once there, Seal appeared again. "I'll see you soon, second wife." She is already referring to me as Rimuru's wife. She again drew a borderate blush on my face. I quickly flew back to my country. When I was back in my sleepymerch, a complete emptiness flew over me. For the next 2 months, I did not manage to meet Rimuru. For fear that he would not want me. This fear had a huge impact on my behavior. I was no longer haughty but only unkind to my loyal subordinates. So after 2 months, I finally decided to meet Rimuru. And now he is taking me to a place he wants to show me. Pav Rimuru. It seems that she was just reminiscing. But now and then her face would turn slightly red. I wonder who she is thinking about right now. In the background, I could hear Seal's laughter all the time. After a few more minutes, we arrived at an archway decorated with flowers. We walked through and saw a square with several tables and chairs. There was a cafe next to it, but because it hadn't opened yet, there was no one there. From the large square, several paths led to individual tables with private servants. But as I said, there is no one here now. "And what do you think?" I asked the vampire next to me. "It's much nicer than my night garden. Now you won't get rid of me so easily. If I wanted to get rid of you, I wouldn't have shown you this place." She blushed slightly. Did she take it any other way than I meant the statement? Nevertheless, Luminous's face makes me happy right now, and she is much prettier than usual. "Come with me, we should choose one of the private seats." She pulled me towards a table. It's nice that Luminous is coming out of her shell a bit and not putting on this supercilious facade all the time. We sat down. I brought out a tea and coffee pot, 2 plates with cutlery, and some of Shuna's desserts. Luminous immediately grabbed one of the desserts and devoured it in a few seconds. Afterward, she had a satisfied smile on her face. "Thank you, Rimuru, this is one of the best days of my life already. I am happy to see you so happy." Again, a discoloration appeared on her face. "Do you want to stay in Tempest or return to Rubirio's?" "I will stay here, even if I still have to decide where to sleep. If you want, I can secure a room for you in the luxury hotel." Luminous Pav. "Most of all I would like to spend the night with him, and if he allows it I want to sleep in his arms." I got up and put my chair next to his and rested my head on his shoulder. "Don't look so funny, I'm just tired and you're the best pillow here right now. Okay, make yourself comfortable. Rimuru, can you put your hand on my hip?" Rimuru Pav. She was happy all day long. That's why I listened to her request. But suddenly my heart started beating wildly and all of a sudden I felt warm. "Seal, what is it?" "Think hard, master." "Huh? What does she mean?" Anyway, I should get some sleep too. So I found a comfortable position and activated my sleep skill. Luminous Pav. I woke up after 2 hours and still noticed Rimuru's hand on my hip. When I saw his sleeping face, my face turned bright red. But after the blush subsided, I decided to sit on his lap and snuggled against his chest. Before I activated my sleep skill again, Seal appeared. "And when are you going to confess your love to him?" "I plan to spend the night with him and then confess my love to him the next morning. Fufufu, understand, enjoy his warmth." She then disappeared. I thought for a moment about what she meant with her last sentence before I finally fell asleep. Seal Pav. One day master will find out that I sneak into his arms every night, and then, just before he woke up, I was back in his mind. Rimuru Pav. When I woke up, I noticed something heavy on me. After I opened my eyes, this heavy one made itself felt through Luminous. Suddenly my blood rushed through my cheeks. Now I know where this feeling came from before and I feel the same right now. But I have felt this before and something tells me that it was in connection with Seal. Seal, what is this feeling that I am feeling right now? But it's not the first time I've felt it. When Seal rested on my shoulder in her human form, I felt the same. Spend the night with Luminous to find out, master. Really? Yes, master, maybe you feel love. Can you explain to me what constitutes love, Seal? You don't want to lose the person who is important to you, and you always want to protect them, and you are happy when you feel their physical closeness. What Seal just described to me I only feel with her and just with Luminous. I looked into her face as her eyes slowly opened. She looked into my eyes and her face turned slightly red. Morning, sleepyhead. The sun's almost down, you idiot slime. Ha ha ha. Stop laughing. Say, can we go to the bathhouse together? Of course, if that's what my vampire wants, I said to her in a seductive tone. Fufufu, you will nestle against my chest in your slime form though. She returned in the same tone. Come on, let's go. Wait a minute, I want you in my arms. I understand what you want. She jumped off me and then I jumped into her arms with my slime form. We went straight to the hot springs. At the bathhouse, Luminous took me to the women's changing room. There she brushed the clothes off her body in front of my slime eyes. She is so beautiful, if I wasn't in my slime form I would be bright red. Afterward, we went to the hot springs together and went to a secluded corner. Luminous looked for a comfortable position. After she was done, I snuggled against her chest. She even let out a soft moan. The vampire pressed me even closer and let her hands rest on me. You are beautiful, Luminous. Thank you in your human form too. Have you decided where you're going to spend the night now? Suddenly she blushed after my question. Well, I wanted to ask you if we could spend the night together. Did Seal have anything to do with it, perhaps? After all, it was her advice that I spend the night together with Luminous. I'd love to if you want. She suddenly became insanely happy. That's what her sincere smile told me. She also gave me a big hug as soon as she understood the words. But who can blame her? She could never show her true emotions after Chloe disappeared 300 years ago. At most now and then with Hinata, but there she showed her seductive, playful nature. After a relaxing bath, we went to my house. Once there, Luminous marveled at my private hot spring. You might as well have said that you have your own hot spring. You wanted to go to the bathhouse, I argued. Anyway, we should go to sleep. Gladly. I led her into the bedroom. There I changed into my slime form. Then I changed into my human form. I was now wearing my sleeping clothes. I immediately lay down in bed and closed my eyes. What I didn't know was that she took off her clothes and lay naked in bed with me. When I woke up in the middle of the night, I noticed that I was lying against Luminous's chest and that she was holding me against her. After I noticed that, my face turned bright red. But after a few seconds, I got used to the situation and enjoyed the physical contact with the vampire. I love you. I heard someone whisper. When I looked at Luminous, she was fast asleep, but she talked in her dreams from time to time. I bent down to her ear and whispered into it. I love you too. And Seal too, but I'll confess my love to her later. I went straight back to sleep, enjoying the warmth of Luminous. The next morning I immediately noticed a lack of warmth. I jumped out of bed to look for Luminous. However, Seal appeared in front of me, and she kissed me intensely. I love you, Master. I love you too, Seal. We kissed again. Luminous is in the hot spring. Hurry dear, she's waiting. You get ready for what's about to happen. Phew, of course dear. I immediately went to the hot tub where Luminous was bathing in it with pleasure. When she saw me, she went straight to me and kissed me intensely as well. I love you, Rimuru. I love you too, Lumi. She blushed even more when I called her Lumi. Can you call me that all the time now and I'll call you love? If that's what my vampire wants. Phew, come on, we should go, Seal is waiting. We went into the bedroom and a wild night began. The next morning I put a finger around each of their rings and 25 years passed. Some of my subordinates put out an advertisement for me to be their wife. They did not know that I was already married. But after 20 years I decided to deal with the inquiries. And so Velzard, Velgrant, Testarossa, Carrera, Ultima, and Kumara also became my wives. All the others who were important to me became romances, and I fulfilled their intimate wishes from time to time. But I will explain the events in more detail at some point. After another 5 years I had the idea to teleport to another world together with Luminous and Seal. Chapter 1. In the New World. Rimuru Pav. I heard the voice of a crying, sobbing girl. After I awoke, my eyes flew open. I rose to look at the surroundings around us together with Luminous. Where are we, Seal? This is the world of fairy tale, a world with mages. A big red circle flashes in front of us. My eyes widened as I saw a little girl controlling all kinds of battle equipment and slaughtering the people in front of her. I turned away from the bloodshed. It was just like when Pharma's was attacked, with bodies and blood everywhere. Her scream died away and an order rang out. Kill this insolent little slave now. Slave? The guards ran to the girl who was protecting an old grandpa. We sprinted to them to save her. Lumi, you take care of her? Of course, love. With graceful and extremely deadly sword cuts, we two demon lords killed all the attendants nearby. Afterward, I checked the old man's pulse, it was weak. What surprised me was that the old man opened his eyes and looked straight at me. With his right hand, he pulled at my cloak and spoke in a hoarse voice. Pete, please, I beg you, please take her with you," the man murmured. The child looked up with wide eyes and tears streaming down her face. I looked at her, a shocked look settled over my face. The child was missing an eye, but had a metal eye patch instead. Anger slowly grew in my chest as I looked at the dead and bloodied people. Luminous hugged me and looked worriedly at my face. I smiled slightly, which assured Luminous that everything was okay. Pete, please take care of her, I beg you," the man mumbled as he took his last breath and closed his eyes. The girl began to cry again. I pulled her to my chest and let her cry for as long as her human body would allow. "There is no point in reviving him because he will die in 3 days anyway," reported Seal to me via the communication. I was expecting something like this. "Tell Lumi we should adopt her as our daughter," I whispered in her ear. Lumi got a joyful smile on her face and pulled me and the child into her arms. 3 hours later. We left the tower together with the girl and were now in a nearby forest. "What are you going to do now?" I asked her. "Rob jigs and told me to come with you. He thinks you are good people," the girl explained. "Then you want to be our daughter?" Lumi asked, opening the door. The girl had a happy smile on her lips as she jumped into Lumi's arms. I sat down behind Lumi and wrapped them both in my arms. 30 minutes later. I got up and the two of them did the same to leave this horrible place. "What is your name?" Lumi asked. The girl with the scarlet hair blinked at her and beamed a smile. Urza. After a long pause, Urza Scarlet. "What are your 2 names?" "Rimuru Tempest, and this is my wife Luminous Tempest." Half an hour later we had covered quite a distance. When the sound of snoring and a body hitting the ground rang out. We turned around. "Seal, can you put her in a bed in my imaginary space?" "Of course, dear." She disappeared into my imaginary space and will sleep peacefully there. "Tell me, dear, what role do I play in the family?" "You're the lovely aunt, Seal. Like all the rest of my wives and the other romances." I thought she would get angry at my remark. Instead, she blushed. After 30 minutes, Seal told me that she mumbled something about fairy tale in her sleep. "What is that, Seal?" "It's a guild in this world that takes commissions to earn money for the mages. You also meet a lot of friends there, which is the main reason for most people to join a guild." Steadily we walked over the barren land. We looked up as the shadow of a dragon flew above us. "So there are dragons here too. Could you tame one, love?" Good question, maybe with my true dragon hockey. We should try it out sometime." She nodded gently at me. I was about to walk on again when I felt something near my feet. I looked down to see a small pouch filled with paper money. "This is the currency of this world." I put the bag in my imaginary space, then we continued walking step by step. We continued walking on the barren land until we finally reached a town. By the time we got to the entrance of the town, night had fallen. We looked for a place to stay for the night. While searching, we saw a library with its title written in bright, bold letters. Then we found a bulging guest house. We went straight to the lady at the reception who smiled at us nicely. "Hello, young couple, what can I do for you?" The woman looked to be in her 20s and was wearing a black dress, her hair neatly tied into a braid. "We need a room," I explained. "I see," the woman giggled to herself. "That would be 200 jewels," came her reply. I took out the bag and put 200 on the table. When the woman took the money, she showed us the number 2 with her finger. "This is for 2 days. If you want the room for more than 2 days, the price will increase by 100 each day," the woman explained. I nodded to her and turned around, looking at the key which had the same number as on the room door. So we looked for it. Finally, we found our room on the upper floor. Then we entered the room. I looked at it, the bedroom was the living room, and to our right, there was a door. I opened it to see a bathroom. I closed it again while looking at the other part of the room. To my left there was a table and a wardrobe. I slowly walked to the bed and laid the girl on the bed, making sure her head was on the pillow. I took a sheet and covered her body. We let our gaze rest on her a little longer and then went to the bathroom, where we bathed and had a little fun together. While Lumi slept peacefully on my chest, I summoned a clone. It was supposed to scout out the surroundings for me. "Understood." My voice rang out from the clone. My clone then left the room and left the building and then the city to explore the surroundings outside the city. I carried Lumi to bed and laid her next to the sleeping girl. My attention then turned to the girl sleeping on the bed. I thought about what it was about that red circle that had appeared when she screamed about the death of the older man. Probably at that moment her magic awakened. Because in this world, the use of magic is always visible through the circle. "Seal, come out, you sleep in my arms tonight." But don't you want to pull your daughter into your arms, dear? No, Lumi already does, as you can see. She appeared and lay down next to the red-haired girl. Then I lay down with Seal and hugged her belly. Next morning, I opened my eyes to see Seal still asleep and the girl still asleep too. I got up and looked for Lumi. But suddenly my clone stood in front of me and handed me a bag with a dress for the girl. I put the bag on the table and went into the bathroom to Lumi. I hugged her from behind and rammed my vampire fangs into her neck. Ah, love. After I stopped, Lumi quickly turned around and rammed her fangs into my neck, which caused her to elicit an occasional moan from me. After we finished in the bathroom, we went back to the living room. The little one had woken up again in the meantime, while Seal was still sleeping peacefully. "Who's that?" she asked me while pointing at the sleeping woman. "This is Seal, my first wife and your aunt." "Ah, I see. Here, this is for you." She put the dress on, and it looked very good mixed with her hair. "Say, you were muttering something about fairy tale in your sleep. Do you want to join the guild?" After my words, her face beamed with joy. She began to tell what Jai-san had told her about fairy tale and that it was a guild, which is like a big family. We listened attentively to her explanation, and through my clone I knew where the fairy tale guild was. "I see, and you want to join fairy tale?" I asked. She beamed at me and nodded her head. "But first we will train you for 3 months." "Okay, we can start right away." She was full of energy. Before we left for the nearby forest of the city, I brought Seal back to my soul. "Huh, where did she go?" Ezra shouted. I explained that we were from another world, and we told her the story of how we met and roughly what we experienced. She listened intently the whole time. I stopped the time and showed her some recordings. "You are so incredibly strong." Her voice sounded full of astonishment. I let time continue normally and we went into the forest to train. I gave her a sword that she could easily use with her size, and it had the magical property that it always adapted perfectly to her size. "Wow, that's a nice sword. Come on, let's start training." But before we started, Lumi healed her injured eye. After a few seconds, she had a completely intact eye. 3 months later. After 3 months, her abilities had increased considerably and she could summon any weapon category. Because I could duplicate the money at any time, I could pay for everything without any problems. Today we will leave for the Fairy Tale Guild. After a few minutes walk we reached the harbor. I went to the captain and paid him the money. The price was 1,200 jewels for me and Lumi and 300 for Urza. The captain welcomed us onto the ship. I sat down against the ship's railing while Lumi sat on my lap, Urza snuggled against her chest, and Seal leaned against my shoulder. The ride was boring and uneventful, except when a man commented that Urza would one day become a good-looking woman and a man-eater. Needless to say, Seal and Lumi were not happy about this statement. They both stood up while Lumi put Urza on my lap. "What are those two up to?" "It's best not to look." You could only hear the occasional scream, but since everyone had an idea what would happen after the comment, no one cared. Eventually, we reached Fiore and a town called Harjan Town. We left the ship as Urza enthusiastically waved goodbye to her newfound friend, the captain. We were currently south of Magnolia Town. We decided to take a horse-drawn carriage as the guild was not very far. After almost a full day of traveling, they arrived in Magnolia Town. Seal, who by now was back in my soul, led me through the people-filled town. Fairy Tale Guild. I slowly opened the doors of the guild, and all the noises inside died away as the people inside saw us. I watched each of them closely as we entered the guild. I saw children of Urza's age at a table staring at us. Then a man approached us. His outfit was simple and practical, consisting of a dark torn cloak over his bare chest, with a high collar and armored plates on his shoulders, held close by a belt and covering his whole figure, and a pair of wide dark trousers, complete with an armored waist guard with plates similar to those on his shoulders. With simple boots he walked towards us. I looked at him wearily as he approached. He smiled as he came to us. "Welcome to Fairy Tale, can I help you?" "I am looking for Makarov-sama, is he present here?" I asked quietly. "Ah, I see, wait a moment," said the man as he called out master. I watched as a dwarf of a man approached us. I got a serious look on my face as he approached. "What can I do for you, young lady?" "I'm sorry, but I'm a man." Back to the subject, "I am here to fulfill a request from a man whose name was Rob-san. I believe he was part of your guild," I replied. The man in front of me, Makarov, burst out laughing when he asked how his friend was and that he hadn't heard from him in years. "I'm afraid he's dead, Makarov-sama," I said in a monotone voice. This shocked the two men in front of me as he quietly motioned for me to speak to them privately. He waved me into a room with me, Lumi, Urza, and the man I had just met. After a proper introduction, I told them what had happened to Rob. I told them what happened after we arrived and that we were from another world. I also showed them the same footage I showed Urza. I see, so you could destroy the entire world if you wanted to. But since you saved the girl, I assume you just want to have a good time, right? Makarov asked. Yes, you're right about that, I answered his question. By the way, Ezra fell asleep while we were watching the footage, and they weren't surprised that I was a slime, which surprised me, but I guess they were expecting anything. Another world? I see, and the old man told the little girl about us, huh? Asked the man I now identified as Gilderts. I nodded my head in reply. We will take care of her, but what are you going to do now? Makarov asked us. We are going to see the world. Answered Lumi. But what about her? You are her parents, so to speak. Gilderts protested. I know, but during the 3 months of training we already told Urza about our plans, and besides, she would make better friends here without us because she has no anchor point. It sounds heartless, but it's better. I explained to them. I woke her up and told her that it was time to say goodbye for the time being. She gave me and Lumi another big hug before we left the room. Seal also appeared and gave Ezra another big hug. But before you go you have to get the guild seal. So wait a moment. After 10 minutes Makarov came back with a stamp. So where do you want it? We all showed them the back of our left hand, whereupon he pressed the guild seal on it. After that, me and Lumi left, leaving Urza behind for an undetermined amount of time. But she was already looking forward to seeing us again. This pair, they are invincible in pairs. I know and guess Gilderts? Makarov smiled, and Gildert looked on. Fairy Tale has 3 new members, we are getting stronger and stronger. Yes, and that will never change. Agreed on Gilderts as he watched us leave the guild. The next generation will always surpass the previous one. What are their names anyway? Good question, Master. We should ask Urza. Ezra. Yes, Master. What are your parents' names? Rimuru and Luminous Tempest.